Okay, so today I'll be presenting Machismo, okay? So, I thought to start off the presentation I would introduce this theme through images, okay? So, these are some I pulled out of the internet, so, well, representing Machismo. So, we have here a woman who died because of the symbol of a man. Here, I'm going to translate for you. Make him feel at ease. Let him be comfortable on the couch. Take his shoes. Offer him a beverage, etc. Speak with a soft voice. So this is propaganda. For women. Here, machismo. It's a padlock, and it's like the woman. The symbol of a woman is not free. Okay. Here he's saying, "I love you too." Okay. I took a quote from Luis Vidales, a Colombian poet and writer. Machismo began when they invented that God was a man, which I thought was interesting. And I also noticed when I looked up this concept that the great majority of these images were in Spanish. So, what is machismo? So the definition by Merriam-Webster is a strong sense of masculine pride and exaggerated masculinity. So, just to make things interesting, I thought since this word derives from the Spanish language, I would compare it to the definition that the Royal Spanish Academy gave this same term, which was attitude of predominance of men towards women. So here it's emphasizing that it's one towards the other. Here they're not including women in their definition. So the term macho or being macho is having or showing qualities that portray a traditional idea of men, so aggression, strength, etc. And the term was originally used for male animals, not for humans. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Machismo versus feminism. So this wasn't really part of, or supposed to be part of the presentation. I believe there's another presentation about the role of women, but I just wanted to clarify a few things so we don't get mixed up here. So, the major differences for machismo. It's a belief that women are inferior to men, not to be confused with misogyny. May lead to discrimination against women, but also homosexuals, transsexuals, and metrosexuals. So it's not exclusive to women. And also, misogyny is basically literally hating women or having strong prejudice against them. So women are also seen as property, and women may be subject to mistreatment and sorry, I'm talking. Women may be subjected to mistreatment and physical abuse. Now, feminism. It's a belief that women should be equal to men. So no inferiority, no superiority. Women, and even some men, look for justice in society and gender equality in terms of education, employment, and other aspects. So, feminism does not lead to the ill treatment of men and does not seek to discriminate men. Okay? So, we see that there's a fine line between these two. Okay, now, machismo in Colombian culture. So, I'll be presenting the role of patriarchy in a Latin American society. This is exclusive to not just Colombia, but also, like I said, Latin American society. So, these are a few things I looked up. So, it's a term that started being used to describe superiority of men around the year 1948. So, even though machismo was present in society throughout a big part of their history, it wasn't used until this year. The year in which women obtained the right to vote in certain South American countries, well, Latin American countries. So, throughout history, Latin American societies have favored men in virtually every aspect because, like the term patriarchy suggests, males hold the primary power. In Latin America, there is a very high concentration of sexual violence and femicide. So, obviously, the murder of women. So, especially in Brazil and El Salvador. Due to the abuse and murder of women, given their situation in society. There's lots of inequity in the economic hierarchy of many countries. Religion, so mainly Catholicism, is also very present in society, especially in small villages, so we can also see why women wouldn't exactly be in favor, or at least why the males would have more power. So there's also publicity, so because sex sells, right? So we would have, skimpy outfits for women, or like, to attract men. So women are seen as property of men. So for example, when you're talking or in books, you'd say she is, okay, let's say, I don't know, just for an example, Nalden is David's man. Woman. Nalden is David's man, but I guess Nalden is David's woman. Okay, so it would infer that she's property of him. You would never hear, or at least in the Spanish language, for example, that David is Nalden's man. Okay, it's not something you would hear. I know that's not the case for at least this society, but it's very much used in these societies. So, once again, I thought it'd be interesting to put 4 women in power in Latin America that have gone against the tradition of machismo-infused societies. Obviously, this is pretty recent, but still. So there's Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, president of Argentina. She was elected in 2007 and 2011. Dilma Rousseff, president of Brazil. Laura Chinchilla Miranda, president of Costa Rica, and Michelle Bachelet, president of Chile, which was elected twice. So, despite these symbols of progress, much of it still needs to be made in order to have a more idealistic and just society. And also, some men or leaders have described her as having a totalitarian regime. So, for example, since it's a very Catholic society, they would say that abortion is not supported. However, she's saying, or she's urging people to accept abortion in society for medicinal purposes, or like, rape victims, right? Because the woman isn't always, pregnant just because she decided to. So there are a lot of these things that these women are trying to, change to make it, like I said, a more just society. Now, here are many quotes, or like the quotes in the book that have machismo, or like that highlight machismo. So, her father, Ponce Vicario, was a poor man's goldsmith, and he lost his sight from doing so much fine work in gold in order to maintain the honor of the house. Purísima del Carmen, her mother, had been a school teacher until she married forever. So it's sort of like he stopped her from continuing her career. Her meek and somewhat afflicted look hid the strength of her character quite well. She looked like a nun, my wife Mercedes recalls. She devoted herself with such spirit of sacrifice to take care of her husband and the rearing of her children that at times one forgot she still existed. So we see how this has affected this character. So, and we also have a comparison to a nun to describe the situation. The brothers were brought up to be men. The girls had been reared to get married. So it's like I said, this is a mentality that has been taught since childhood, and as a result, they carried that mindset throughout their whole life, which eventually led them to, acting like they did in the novel, with regards to Santiago. They burst panting into the parish house, and they laid the knives with clean blades on Father Amador's desk. Their clothes and arms were soaked and their faces smeared with sweat and still living blood, but the priest recalled the surrender as an act of great dignity. "We killed them openly," Pedro Vicario said, "but we're innocent. Perhaps before God," said Father Amador. "Before God and before man," Pablo Vicario said. "It was a matter of honor." "I knew what they were up to," she told me, "and I didn't only agree. I never would have married him if he hadn't done what a man should do." So this is Prudencia talking, Prudencia. I think Pablo's fiance. So here we see that she as a woman, she's in a way encouraging this this mentality. So we also see that not all women were against this. Some just went along, and some of them it was convenient for them, to have like financial security, have a home, have a husband to take care of like the family, while she would take care of the household, for example. Also, so Clotilde Armenta had good reason when it seemed to her that the twins weren't as resolute as before. That day, she told me, I realized just how alone we women are in the world. Also, Pedro Vicario asked to borrow her husband's shaving implements, and she brought him the brush, the soap, and and a safety razor with a new blade, but he shaved with his butcher knife. Clotilde Armenta thought that was the height of machismo. He looked like a killer in the movies, she told me, so I think we understand the concept here. And it's made in like something like like she said in the movies, something sort of exaggerated. So we also see that the men are also proud of visiting Maria Alejandra Cervantes' brothel / whorehouse. They have no shame because society approves of such behavior from men. And finally, after the death of Santiago and the brothers are released from prison, it says, Santiago Nazar had expiated the insult, so he wasn't guilty anymore, let's say. And the brothers Vicario had proved their status as men, and the seduced sister was in possession of her honor once more. So this is a sentence that pretty much brings everything together, like the sort of the message of the novel. So now, question time.
Question.
Okay, so to what extent would the story's plot change if machismo had not been a theme present throughout Marquez's literary work? Taj?
There'd be no murder.
Okay.
Story wouldn't exist.
The story wouldn't exist?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, well, first of all, the brothers wouldn't have to like maintain the honor, or maybe to start with, the girl wouldn't have lost her honor and virginity because a man like took it from her. Like they wouldn't look down on that as much.
And I'd also like to emphasize that while this term was derived or originated from the Spanish language, this doesn't mean that all Latin American societies are like this. There are also many societies like our own here today that they haven't exactly. I mean, they've encouraged it to a certain extent. For example, in Pride and Prejudice, where the mom is just trying to get her girls married, so a man can take care of them, and so it's not just these societies, but this is something that has been very present in these Latin American societies, and that has been sort of preserved throughout history since colonial times and such, and until now there's been more progress. So, how has patriarchy influenced the characterization of key female individuals in the novel?
Well, big word.
How have powerful men had an impact on the way women in the book are seen?
Said slower.
How has patriarchy? Yeah.
Well, like Bayardo, when he wants to marry Angela, she can't say no.
Mhm.
So like, it just kind of proves that she doesn't really have a place or like a say in anything that happens in her life because she's a female, and Bayardo's just seems to have all this power.
Continue with that.
Yeah.
This is more of a question, but where do you draw the line between machismo and like stereotypes? Machismo, sure, machismo. And like stereotypes against women, or like in society, like in that society. Because like in old societies, we all know that like women didn't have as much power as men in their life. So like, how do you draw the line between what?
I'm just confused by the question.
Okay.
Because do you mean machismo versus feminism? No, right? You don't mean
No, I mean like, where do you draw the line between it being machismo or it being just like,
Exactly.
I don't know.
Machismo is exaggerated. Like, there's, the line's already passed.
Of course, there are some, let's say jokes or yes, like you said, stereotypes. Like, I don't know, like a man, oh yeah, I'm gonna drink some beer, I'm gonna, or like work out, like that kind of stuff. Like I said, macho is showing qualities of like the traditional idea of men, what men should be. Right, tough, almost like no emotions, like that kind of stuff. Just like a tough tough exterior as well as tough interior. To use the term correctly, it would have to be it wouldn't have to be, you know, like, exaggerated as much, or like at least seem like a joke. I don't know if that answers the question. David had his hand up before, but do you want me to?
How's it feel? You're aching to say
Yeah,
something.
David.
Yeah. No, like what I found ironic or a bit like strange is that when we see Bayardo and then they at the end they say how he is a victim of the marriage and how he's just a victim. I find like they pour more emphasis on the on the male character as a female, and it also like depicts the idea that he is not real. So it falls back into that magic realism that he is a fairy, so he is not like other men. Because men should be the ones that hold the strength. They should not be victims.
Yeah.
So in this idea, I guess it portrays that idea that they put emphasis on the men and how he is not very. He doesn't fall in the category of being a macho since he is a victim.
So you mean like, yeah,
Santiago?
he was a victim?
He was a victim, so he doesn't fall in the machismo type
Yeah.
of.
Wait, who?
And then like
Bayardo.
eventually,
Ow.
They call him a victim.
like because
Victim,
he
even-
didn't get to get married because of.
He was supposed to get married, but he realized his wife is not a virgin. So they always call him a victim throughout the thing.
So like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so.
Yeah, so that's like an interesting point. And also like the only maybe glimpse of machismo that we could see for that character at least is when he brings back the girl that he was going to marry because of the reason that she wasn't a virgin. So this comes back to the fact that this society believes that in order for a woman to be pure, she has to be a virgin when she's married. But however, like that doesn't apply to a guy, right? So, Maya?
Sorry, can you go back a couple of slides? Do you at all mention
Oh.
honor?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry, I missed that because
I
was
can show
way
you.
back.
You weren't listening.
Well, we have to go outside.
Sorry.
It was the first.
No. Okay. Maintain honor of the house.
No, before that. This is just an honor. So, but have you defined what honor means?
No.
Well,
Why didn't you?
because it's a machismo presentation.
Sorry?
Because it's a machismo presentation.
Yes, I know, but machismo
Wait, guys,
is
guys.
honor.
Huh?
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the thing that I don't know if the class is completely understanding. And
Yeah,
this is what I mean when
okay.
I'm trying to draw in this honor idea. Machismo in this society means to be a man.
Yeah.
Like you illustrate all of these characteristics because that is the definition of what a man is.
Yeah.
Okay? So a man is somebody who is like rules over women.
Yeah.
Okay, has a great deal of sexual prowess, right? He frequents these brothels. He can't possibly ever marry a girl who is not a virgin. Like that is the definition of a man, and therefore, when the Vicario twins must kill Nassar,
Yeah.
they have to uphold their definition of what a man is, their
Yeah.
honor,
Yeah.
by doing this violence, because that is what
Who they
a
are.
man is supposed to do.
Yeah, because
You see what I mean?
yeah, like I said, like to agree with you, it's something they've been taught since childhood, and they carry that throughout their whole
Yes.
life. So basically, every man in this type of society has to live up to that, let's say, definition, or else you are not like nobody respects you, let's say, or like nobody takes you seriously, because that's not what society is telling you to do.
Right. So, sorry, and just to go back to what Johan had said, and your question, and that's why I was a little bit concerned. It's not about stereotypes, because in this particular culture, what they are taught of as children growing up, that this is what a man does. It's not about a stereotype, it's just the role that they must fulfill because of the sex that he is. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Is it a rule? Or
It is a rule.
Yeah, it's a society.
It's embedded in the society.
Rule or roll?
Rule.
Rule.
It's embedded. It's just
Kind of
an.
like, yeah,
And a role.
they fulfill a role.
It's not an expectation.
The role of a man is to follow this rule of machismo.
Support.
Yes.
Yeah.
approve?
And that's why the Vicario twins must.
Kill sin.
They don't want to. Do you notice that they don't want to?
They want someone to stop them, that's what they
They
keep
keep
telling him.
they keep openly saying, we're gonna go kill Nassar. Oh, let's drink up a bunch of alcohol so that we can get drunk and not kill Nassar, but nobody stops them.
And do they make sure that they tell everybody in that society?
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons too why this journalist, narrator, comes back, because he's like, why if this entire society knew about this crime that was going to take place, why did they not stop it?
And this is, again, contributes to machismo because the whole society believes that they must fulfill that role.
Even
And
when
so
the
they
colonel-
don't stop him because they know, because they have been taught that these boys have to do that.
And yeah, and even when the colonel like takes away their knives, they're like, okay, no, either way we have to keep going. So they take more like knives, go back to the place, get them sharpened, like they continue until the deed is done. Yeah, Tej.
Tej.
I have a question. Is Nassar like machismo man?
No.
Yes.
What?
Tell me why. Tell me why no, or tell me why yes.
He
Go.
like claims the girl, the forest girl, Davina, whatever,
Okay.
and he has like his ranch and like his guns and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's definitely he is definitely a macho.
Because you can claim a girl and own land.
He tries, okay, so he is very aggressive and very assertive sexually. Remember, he goes after, what's her name, Flau? Davina Flau, right? He wants to tame her, okay? He, yes, what is he, sleeps with his gun, right?
And also like up until the point where like even when he's about to die, like he's like he just turns around barehanded and takes them on, even though they have knives and they stab him. Like he still like makes sure, yeah.
And his gun's fake.
Squares up.
It's not even loaded. He just needs to like look like he has a gun.
Sure. Yes, you might.
Like, here's where I'm going. Let's say in today's society, some things like what we just named repeat themselves.
Yes.
So that's where I'm torn, because like, yes, now it's not necessarily the rule, it's more like an expectation than a rule, but like, it still happens today. For
Absolutely.
example, guys will claim their girl. Like, that's just a basic example, right?
Yeah.
And things like that, so like. it
Like you see this in the
happens.
animal kingdom
The
too,
girls
which is
eat.
one of the reasons why like this term was originally used for animals, right?
Like, that's my question, we can't say that
Guys!
society presents machismo, but like, where do you draw the line between it being machismo and it not being machismo?
Oh, and I finally see what you're trying to say.
Because like,
Okay,
today's
like-
society also presents things like that, but we
Yeah.
can't say that today's society presents machismo,
So,
but like, where do you draw the line?
Well,
I mean,
Okay, so in this case of the novel, it's a society, but like you say today, or at least in our our society, in North America, for example, it's like more the individual, I guess.
yeah, you have to prove yourself, not prove your.
Yeah, because like I said, like there's been lots of we've evolved sort of, and we keep evolving. I don't know exactly how to.
Karen.
I think the line can be drawn as here, like, they're okay with someone dying without doing further research or anything, whereas here, just because someone is a guy doesn't mean he's gonna go kill someone. Like, you have
Isn't that just
gangs.
ethics?
Yeah, it's ethics. Because they're like raised to think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas now, killing someone because he.
Like, and I think I understand what you're trying to, I think I'm understanding what you're trying to say. Like, in our society, when the way in which we rear our boys is not necessarily reinforcing that machismo. Do you see that? Like today, when we raise our boys, we don't say, go sleep with as many women
Yeah.
as possible.
It's more being a gentleman.
We don't say that you have to be the provider. Instead, we are breaking away from perhaps traditional ideas and those defining roles of what a man and a woman are no longer relevant.
Does it make sense when I say that, like here, for example, it's more the individual? The actual-
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is more, and this is what I mean, it's because I think I would argue that we as a Western society, we don't like to label people any longer, right? Think about what sexuality meant as a man years ago and now what it means. It's not the same, we don't want to limit that anymore, right? Like sexuality is just an example of a topic where there are no longer limits and labels.
Karen, you have?
Yeah, so David said that Bayardo, because he doesn't get the chance to marry or a virgin, that he's a victim, so that makes him not.
Well, I mean, he's a victim in the
Is that
terms
right?
that, like, you know, he's like, okay, well, I guess I don't get to get married anymore. So he just like brings her back, right? So he's a victim in that sense that like his plan was like it didn't work, you know, because
Yeah.
in the end he found out that she was a virgin. So he's like, okay, I can't marry her now. But then I said that afterwards we see that it's a bit of machismo, the fact that he's like, that he takes her back personally, and he's like, you know, basically I don't want her because she's not a virgin. And eventually we see that Angela gets beaten in her house by her own mother too, like not even her dad, right? So it's like, we see that, like I said, some women also have that, like are conscious that it's a machismo-infused society, and because like she almost, you know, killed her daughter, almost.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Taj?
It's also because, like, what you said, men aren't supposed to be the victims, and like, whenever they talk about the fact that the marriage didn't work out, it's always like, oh, poor him, he got a faulty
Mhm.
product. So like, he was betrayed or something, or like it was a bad deal, so he returns his car
Yeah.
basically.
Like he can't fulfill
His
his
honor.
role as a man any longer.
Okay.
Do you see that? So it's not that he's not a macho, he is definitely a macho, okay? Like he is definitely the epitome of machismo. But the fact that he gets, you're right, Taj, this defective product, he can continue to fulfill that machismo, and therefore he is the ultimate victim in all of this,
David?
okay?
Yeah, and I was just gonna say the same thing, and how they put more emphasis on the guy and him being a victim instead of the girl,
There we go.
which, yeah.
Mm.
And also, just to like finish this off, on Facebook, I don't know if, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you have seen this. It's a post that got a lot of attention. A dad who took a picture of his son in an Elsa costume for
I
Halloween.
hate this.
And he said, you know what? Yeah, sure, he's a boy, but Halloween is about dressing up as your favorite characters. It just so happens that this is a princess he likes, so keep your masculine bullshit to yourself. This is what my son wants to do, and I'm gonna go with it because that's what, like, you know, I accept him like that. So I think that's a good example of machismo today. So
It's acceptance.
yeah, so thank you for listening.
Thank you.